Hello everyone, and welcome back to my channel, Sejaki, for another Dissecting Shakespeare, Dissecting King Lear. Today we are going to be doing Act 2, Scene 2 of King Lear. I'm Jackie, as you know, and I'll be playing Kent tonight from the DMV area. And I have here 3 other lovely humans who are going to perform this with me and then dissect it. I'll pass it on to Kat.
Hi there, I am Kat Wilson from Gig Harbor, Washington area, she, her pronouns. Tonight I'll be reading the part of Cornwall.
Hayley.
Sure. Hey, hi guys, everyone. I'm Hayley Beiermeister. I am reading from Houston, Texas, and I'm happy to be back here. And I'm playing Oswald in Regan.
Hi. And I'm Bruce in Toronto, and tonight I'm doing Gloucester and Edmund.
Beautiful. Thank you all 3 for joining and for playing with me and dissecting the scene. For a little, what has happened so far? Just a recap, if you haven't watched the other Dissecting Shakespeare scenes or Dissecting King Lear scenes for a minute. King Lear is getting old and wants to, share his wealth and his kingdoms with his daughters. And so he puts them through a test. His youngest, Cordelia, fails, so he splits the kingdom between his 2 oldest, and they betray him. And we also have another side story with Gloucester, a lord who, is very close to Lear, and he has 2 sons, one who is illegitimate and one who is a bastard out of wedlock. And the bastard wants to take everything from the legitimate son, from his legitimate brother, half-brother. And that's that. All right, let's see what happens in Act 2, Scene 2. Act 2, Scene 2. Before Gloucester's castle, enter Kent and Oswald, severely.
Good dawning to thee, friend. Art of this house?
I,
Where may we set our horses?
in the mire.
Prithee, if thou lovest me, tell me.
I love thee not.
Why then, I care not for thee.
If I had thee in Lipsbury pinfold, I would make thee care for me.
Why dost thou use me thus? I know thee not.
Fellow, I know thee.
What dost thou know me for?
A knave! A rascal, an eater of broken meats, a base, proud, shallow, beggarly, 3-suited, 100-pound, filthy, worsted-stocking knave. A lily-livered, action-taking knave, a whoreson, glass-gazing, super-serviceable finical rogue, one trunk-inheriting slave, one that wouldst be a bard in way of good service, and art nothing but the composition of a knave, beggar, coward, pander, and the son and heir of a mongrel bitch. One whom I will beat into clamorous whining if thou deniest the least syllable of thy addition.
Why, what a monstrous fellow art thou, thus to rail on one that is neither known nor thee nor knows thee?
What a brazen-faced varlet art thou, to deny thou knowest me. Is it 2 days ago since I tripped up thy heels and beat thee before the king? Draw, you rogue! For though it be night, yet the moon shines. I'll make a sock of the moonshine of you. Draw, you whoreson, cullionly barber-monger! Draw! Kent drawing his sword.
Away! I have nothing to do with thee.
Ah, you rascal! You come with letters against the king, and take Vanity, the puppet's part, against the royalty of her father. Draw, you rogue, or I'll so carbonado your shanks! Draw, you rascal! Come your ways! Strike, you slave! Stand, rogue, stand! You neat slave! Strike! Ah! 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 Ha! Ha! Ha!
Help! Oh! Murder! Murder! Oh!
Enter Edmund with his rapier drawn, Cornwall, Regan, Gloucester, and servants.
How now? What's the matter? Part.
Edmund says. With you, goodman boy, and you please. Come, I'll flesh you. Come on, young master.
Weapons, arms. What's the matter here?
Keep peace upon your lives. He dies, it strikes again. What is the matter?
The messengers from our city, sister, and the king.
What is your difference? Speak.
I am scarce in my breath, my lord.
No marvel. You have so bestirred your valor, you cowardly rascal. Nature disclaims in thee, a tailor made thee.
Thou art a strange fellow. A tailor make a man.
I a tailor, sir. A stonecutter or painter could not have made him so ill, though he had been but 2 hours at the trade.
Speak yet. How grew your quarrel?
This ancient ruffian, sir, whose life I have sparred at suit of his grey beard is—
Thou whoreson Zed, thou unnecessary letter. My lord, if you will give me leave, I will tread this unbolted villain into mortar, and daub the wall of a jakes with him. Spare my grey beard, you wagtail!
Peace, sirrah. You beastly knave, know you no reverence?
Yes, sir, but anger hath a privilege.
Why art thou angry?
That such a slave as this should wear a sword who wears no honesty. Such smiling rogues as these, like rats, oft bite the holy cords a twain, which are too entrenched to unloose, smooth every passion that in the natures of their lords rebel, bring oil to fire, snow to their colder moods, renege, affirm, and turn their halcyon beaks with every gale and vary of their masters, knowing not like dogs, but following. A plague upon your epileptic visage! Smile you my speeches as I were a fool? Goose, if I had you upon Sarum plain, I'd drive ye cackling home to Camelot!
What, art thou mad, old fellow?
How fell you out? Say that.
No contraries hold more antipathy than I in such a knave.
Why dost thou call him a knave? What's his offence?
His countenance likes me not.
No more perchance does mine, nor his, nor hers.
Sir, 'tis my occupation to be plain. I have seen better faces in my time than stands on any shoulder that I see before me at this instant.
This is some fellow, who having been praised for bluntness, doth affect a saucy roughness, and constrains the garb quite from his nature. He cannot flatter, he, an honest mind and plain, he must speak truth, and they will take it. So, if not, he's plain. These kind of knaves I know, which in this plainness harbor more craft and more corrupter ends than 20 silly ducking observants that stretch their duties nicely.
Sir, in good sooth, in sincere verity, under the allowance of your great aspect, whose influence, like the wreath of radiant fire on flickering Phoebus' front—
What meanest by this?
To go out of my dialect, which you discommend so much, I know, sir, I am no flatterer. He that beguiled you in a plain accent was a plain knave, which for my part I will not be, though I should win your displeasure to entreat me to it.
What was the offence you gave him?
I never gave him any. It pleased the king his master very late to strike at me upon his misconstruction, when he, conjunct and flattering his displeasure, tripped me behind. Being down, insulted, railed, and put upon him such a deal of man, that worthied him, that got praises of the king for him attempting who was self-subdued, and in the fleshment of this dread exploit drew on me here again.
None of these rogues and cowards but Ajax is their fool.
Fetch forth the stocks! You stubborn ancient knave, you reverent braggart, we'll teach you.
Sir, I am too old to learn. Call not your stocks for me, I serve the king, on whose employment I was sent to you. You shall do small respect, show too bold malice against the grace and person of my master, stalking his messenger.
Fetch forth the stocks! As I have life and honor, there he shall sit till noon.
Till noon? Till night, my lord, and all night too.
Why, madam, if I were your father's dog, you should not use me so.
Sir, being his knave, I will.
This is a fellow of the self-same color our sister speaks of. Come, bring away the stocks.
Let me
Stocks brought out.
beseech your grace not to do so. His fault is much, and the good king his master will check him for it. Your purposeful correction is such as baseless and condemned wretches for pilferings and most common trespasses are punished with. The king his master needs must take it ill that he, so slightly valued in his messenger, should have him thus restrained.
I'll answer that.
My sister may receive it much more worse to have her gentleman abused, assaulted for following her affairs. Put in his legs.
Kent is put in the stocks.
Come, my lord, away.
Exit all but Gloucester and Kent.
Sorry for thee, friend. 'Tis the Duke's pleasure whose disposition all the world well knows will not be rubbed nor stopped. I'll entreat for thee.
Pray, do not, sir. I have watched and travelled hard. Sometime I shall sleep out, the rest I'll whistle. A good man's fortune may grow out at heels. Give you good morrow.
The Duke's to blame in this. 'Twill be ill taken.
Exit Gloucester. Good king, that must approve the common saw, thou out of heaven's benediction comest to the warm sun. Approach, thou beacon to this underglobe, that by thy comfortable beams I may peruse this letter. Nothing almost sees miracles but misery. I know 'tis from Cordelia, who hath most fortunately been informed of my obscured course, and shall find time from this enormous state, seeking to give losses their remedies. All weary and o'erwatched, take vantage, heavy eyes, not to behold this shameful lodging. Fortune, good night. Smile once more. Turn thy wheel. Kent sleeps. End of Act 2, Scene 2. Alrighty. Let's talk about it. So, what happened during this scene? What is going on?
Well, I believe Oswald doesn't recognize Kent from their earlier brawl, right?
Yes.
It's he's thrown off very much, and yeah, it seems as though Regan and Cornwall and Gloucester.
Gloucester.
Oh, man.
Gloss, like
Gloss.
glossy lips.
Rhymes with Foster.
Yes.
Oh my gosh, that's a good one. I keep getting new tips. This is good for your audience too, because I can't be the only one. Yeah, and kind of gets Oswald out of the trouble because he works for them at this point, right? So yeah, it's funny how Kent ends up being put in the stocks. But it makes sense.
I mean, so yes, Kent is very angry, and I feel like part of it is justified and part of it is transference, because he can beat up Oswald because Oswald is a messenger and he's a servant. You know, he's not. He's the servant for what's her name? Not Regan, but
Goneril.
Goneril. Thank you for Goneril. He's Goneril's servant, and lackey, and he does her her service that he doesn't like. And Kent is pissed because he sees that they are betraying the king. And he cannot beat up Goneril and Regan and Cornwall, right? And their husbands. So he wants to beat up Oswald, who is a servant and lower than him in terms of status.
Right.
Unfortunately for him, Regan and Cornwall
Yeah.
are not on his side.
No.
So,
I find it
Well-
interesting, though, that they're in front of Gloucester's castle, but Cornwall is the one that's doing all the ordering, taking charge of the situation, saying, be quiet, let's listen to this person, let's listen to that person, and eventually it calls for the stocks. And it's not Gloucester who's in charge at all, despite that it's his castle.
I agree. I think it's telling, right, that they've already took over so much.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is a pivotal moment of seeing, how much the kingdom has changed thus far from just the beginning.
Yeah, well, the sequence of events here is a little bit mysterious, but in subsequent scenes, when Ken makes a long speech in Act 2, Scene 4, a little bit of the spoiler, it's clarified that, in fact, what had happened off stage is that the messengers had first gone to Cornwall and Regan's castle, but they found, when Oswald took the message there that Lear was going to be showing up at Regan's, they decided, we're not going to be home. Let's not be home. Let's go to Gloucester's instead. And then off stage, it was learned by all parties that, in fact, if we want to find Cornwall and Regan, then we're going to have to go to Gloucester. So there's a kind of a double insult to Lear here, not bothering to be at home when he shows up. But that's not made manifestly clear till a little further along.
Yes. I like how you use the off stage.
Yeah, off. Yeah.
It really is a part of this play.
Well,
What's gone behind the
A
scenes.
little later on, Kent will reveal all of that to us. So,
But it's like I feel like that happens. The kings, like the main kings and kingdoms. They sometimes they're just like not home convenient. Yeah. So I'm not in.
I mean that's one great sort of slap in the face to Lear, not bothering to be at home when he was there. But also, I mean, stalking the king's messenger.
Right.
I mean, Gloucester's right on when he says, Lear ain't going to take too kindly to this.
Yeah, no, he's not.
And just a note, too, in terms of Kent beating up an Oswald, in fact, of actual status, Kent is an earl. He has a superior status to Oswald. But in his disguise, he's merely a servant of the king, whereas Oswald is officially the steward, sort of the left-hand man, as it were, of Goneril. So in some respects, Oswald does have superior status to this anonymous servant of Lear. And
It's true.
I think that's part of what is behind Kent's disdain for him.
Oh, yes.
That
Why he beats up on him.
he's dressed up all fancy, but he's he's nothing but his clothes, really.
And Cornwall says something to that effect too when he says, that this is some fellow who has been praised for his bluntness. And then he says he can't flatter, he has to speak truth, and if he doesn't take it, then he's plain. The plain ones sometimes harbor more craft and more corrupter ends. So yeah, he definitely brings that right out into the open.
Yeah, shamelessly almost like. I don't know why, but I imagine him getting off a carriage and just being like, "You," straight up to Oswald. I've traveled this far and I'm pissed.
No, absolutely. And it's,
Yeah.
it's interesting to see, like, Kent and Edmund seem to have a lot of anger within them, anger issues. And I love
Yeah.
how Kent is so self-aware, you know? He
Yeah.
um
Mhm.
he says, like, I'm a blunt fellow. I'm one who cannot help but
Mhm.
to say how I feel, you know? Um and
Yeah.
I can't help but to, like, everything shows in my voice and
Mhm.
my face, which is very interesting. Like, he wants to be very honest.
Well, he also mentions the fact that he's old too, and that,
Mm-hmm.
because he is so old and so honest, it doesn't do anyone any good to try and change him. I'm sure I am too old to learn. Call not your stocks for me, right? And he's like, yeah, he's just been super mad having this tirade, and yet when they bring out the
Yeah.
stocks, he just says, you can't do
Mhm.
this to me,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
um, even if
Yeah.
I am
Yeah.
plain and honest and blunt.
Mhm.
Facts.
Of
Yeah.
course, Cornwall doesn't listen to him.
Mhm.
Regan doesn't care. She wants to double down on it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
She's like,
Yeah.
"Oh,
Yeah.
just for some hours? No, let's
Mhm.
do for the whole day.
Yeah.
Let's go."
Yeah.
Yeah, I
Mhm.
mean, just that line, that's such a
Yeah.
slave. This should wear a sword who wears no honesty. I love that line. I mean,
Yeah.
Ken's not not
Yeah.
for Oswald at all, and I see why. I mean, yeah,
Well, again, I
Yeah.
think maybe, some of his anger is displaced. Like, Oswald is the messenger, and I feel like,
Mhm.
don't shoot the messenger.
right. That's what it. Yeah, it's
But
just
it's also like, he again cannot you put out his anger on the higher
Mhm.
ups. So he's just, if
taking his shots where he
Mhm.
can.
Yeah.
yeah, exactly. And I don't think it's a good thing, but I think
Yeah.
that's where he comes from.
Well, he can't take his physical anger out on the higher ups, but in
Yeah.
some sense, Kent's attitude, what Kent says to Cornwall,
Hmm.
knowing full well Cornwall's a duke, there's a lot of edge in
Oh
that. He's being pretty sassy
yeah.
with Cornwall. I think when he gets stalked, when he
Hmm.
does get stalked, when Cornwall decides to bring out the stalks, it's as much for the tone that Ken has used with him
Hmm.
than it is for Kent's having beat up on Oswald, maybe even more so. Yeah. This is some saucy rogue. You're going to talk to me like that, Buster? Okay. We'll see how you like it being in the stocks.
That is very true. Yeah, yeah. Cornwall, is like,
Mhm.
I'm not going to accept any disrespect. I'm not Oswald. I have power. Um,
Reverend braggart.
mhm. And it's kind of interesting seeing, and also sad mirroring of, like, the society, at least in the US, of how we
Mhm.
treat our elderly, whether it's Gloucester, um, Kent and
Mhm.
Lear, like, from a few series, I was gonna be,
Mhm.
from a few scenes back to now, we're seeing this younger generation, this generation that's, taking over, treating their elderly like they have no power, they have no voice, you know?
Yeah,
Um, they don't matter as much.
Mhm.
Yes.
And Kent's reaction when Gloucester offers to intercede with the Duke is
Yeah.
interesting too. And he just says, "No, don't worry about it. I'll just sit
Yeah.
here. I'll just, rest, watch for the sun. I'll get some sleep." He doesn't say thank you or yeah, would you please do that? No, he
Yeah.
just says, "Okay, whatever." Um, you know, which I thought was an interesting reaction.
Yes, yes, it is. And for those of you who don't know, like, what the stocks are, it's a wooden device that shackles a person's ankles and renders them immobile, like they can't move. So it's really uncomfortable. It's not great. And the scene ends with Kent, reading a letter that he has received from Cordelia, a letter, filled with hope because she promises to like find a way to
Yeah.
help Lear, King Lear,
Yeah.
who is his power
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
his hold on his kingdom in Britain is slipping fast.
Yeah.
And so Cordelia, who's in France, for those of you who've forgotten, she's been exiled,
Yeah.
is giving Kent some hope
Yeah.
that maybe things can be restored.
Some editions of the play will interpret a few of Kent's lines in that final speech, specifically
Hmm.
uh, the sort of halfway through, shall find time from this enormous state, seeking to give losses their remedies. He's actually there reading out some of the text from the letter. So that's Kent reading Cordelia's words. Now, again, it's another part of this often mysterious epistolary business in the play because, where to get this letter from? We never do find out.
So interesting. I was reading something.
Yeah, absolutely.
Maybe it's something she wrote like a while, like slipped to him before she was even exiled,
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
and he reads it for to comfort himself. It's like a comfort. Yeah. That's so sweet because I'm sure he was like an uncle to her, and thought he was to Regan and Goneril, but like Jackie was saying, the youth is taken over.
Mm-hmm. And the youth isn't necessarily in the right either.
Yeah, no, they're just as wicked as maybe moves that they all made when they were young.
Yeah.
It's like repeated behavior, possibly.
Mm-hmm.
And what Cordelia says, seeking to give losses their remedies, depending on how we interpret that, there's a little bit of a hint there that, I'm going to be doing something to fix this situation. I've somehow learned of the mistreatment my father is suffering. So, at the risk of doing a little bit of a spoiler here, maybe she is thinking about, on her part, from her base in France, preparing some sort of, retaliatory military action. Because we're going to be getting, again, not too much of a spoiler here, some news, couple scenes down the road about an imminent invasion from France.
Yes. I don't think that's much of a spoiler in the sense that there's so much more that happens. But and it makes sense to speak on it since Cordelia is there. And I mean, you really are hoping at this point that Cordelia doesn't just like whatever. Okay. Yeah. But like, there's some sort of a little bit of Antigone, like Joan of Arc idea that the audience wants to have of Cordelia at this point in the play. And it's still there with these little moments, right? So I think that's interesting too.
And it's the hope, that you need in terms of like things are getting worse. The antagonists are, their plans are coming to fruition and everything. But there's hope that those people who are not of the same accord can maybe turn things around. And here it's Cordelia. In the other situation with Gloucester and his two sons, Edmund has left, right? Because everyone believes that he tried to kill his father, Gloucester, and attack Edmund. So but who knows? Who knows what is going to happen in the next scene?
Yeah. And I love how that hope is phrased. Nothing almost sees miracles but mistakes. You can't see the miracles unless you're really down and out.
And speaking of the next scene, perhaps it's worth mentioning, slightly pedantic note here, but actually in the folio text of the play, first folio text of the play, Act 2, Scene 2 is one long continuous scene, the chunk we did today, plus the rest of what is Act 2 in standard editions of the play. The very short Act 2, Scene 3, which is sort of Edgar's transformation. In a stage production, you'd probably see Kent in the stalk, sort of off to one side, say stage left, and then Edgar come on stage right. So no real break. Usually, technically in a scene break, the stage totally clears.
Right, like the
And then
light
somebody
goes
comes
out.
on. But that really is not quite the case here, but it has been the editorial tradition to take Egger's poor Tom transformation and make that a separate scene.
Gotcha. Interesting. Excellent. Well, any last thoughts before we say goodbye?
Yeah. Well, again, fortune, good night. Smile once more, turn thy wheels. Lots of times we get mention of fortune from a number of different characters in the play. And this is Kent's go at it.
Yes,
And
absolutely.
George R.R. Martin was totally influenced by King Lear to write Game of Thrones. That's all I'm going to say.
Mhm.
That's it.
I mean, King Lear, we see King Lear show up a time and time again in literature and in entertainment and in movies and TV. So I mean, it's and King Lear itself, you know, wasn't an original concept in and of itself. It's a tale as old as time. as I like to say.
Out of his school. Love it.
Excellent. Well, thank you all for joining me, Hayley, Kat, Bruce, and thanks y'all for watching another Dissecting Lear, and hope to catch you at the next one for Act 2, Scene 3, and then Act 2, Scene 4, etc., etc. Hasta la vista!
Night.
Ciao!
Goodbye.
Good night, all.